Hey everyone, it's Brett from Hope to Prosper, and I'm here in Denali National Park. The wind's blowing, so I hope you can hear me. And I'm on about a 7-mile hike, Triple Lakes Loop. There's a little suspension bridge that I just walked over. Man, it's gorgeous here. Thanks for coming along. This is going to be a little different this time. I'm going to do a travel video instead of a retirement video. So there's not going to be any retirement content, but I know you're going to like the scenery. All right. So I flew into Anchorage after a 6-hour spending the night in Seattle. I ended up stuck in Seattle both ways, but I got a really cheap ticket. So you'd love Ted Stevens Airport. There's planes and native artifacts and animals. It's a pretty airport. It's something pretty cool when you land to, you really feel like you're in Alaska. So anyways, I stopped in Anchorage at the Snow City Cafe and had my favorite seafood Benedicts. One of those is crab and one of those is salmon. And then I drove to Talkeetna. Now it's about a 2-hour drive to Talkeetna from Anchorage. And right here we're cruising down Main Street. It's just a little village type place. It's kind of artsy, and a lot of the buildings are old. But there's some cool shops, great places to eat, a couple little places to stay. It's just a cool town, and this is kind of the, this is the little town that's like nearest to the entrance to Denali. But Denali is a 3-hour drive from Talkeetna, so it's quite a ways if you're driving from Anchorage like I did. And so, as you can see, there's a lot of cool little places to stop. I drove by the little spinach bread place in that Silver Airstream, but it was closed that day, so didn't get any spinach bread. And then the next day I was off in Denali. So this is where I stayed. I stayed in the Fairview Inn. It's about 100-year-old. It's kind of like just a tavern. There's a bar downstairs, 7 rooms upstairs. Bathrooms are down the hall. So it was pretty rustic, but it was affordable, and I slept well, even though there was live music in the bar. And it was nice. It was right in the middle of everything, so you could just walk out of there and go anywhere downtown from here. The whole little town of Talkeetna is very, very walkable, by the way. And that's Negley's store. I stopped there for I needed to buy a phone charger, and then I went to Denali Brewing, which is next door to my hotel, and got a flight. It was very cool. This is just the Denali Brewing store, not the brewery, which I'll show you later. Here's the train depot, and I wanted to take the train to Denali from Anchorage, but my schedule was off, so I ended up just renting a car instead of driving it. This right here is the Overlook. This is the river Overlook, and from here you can see Denali on a clear day. And in fact, you're not that far from Talkeetna to Denali as the crow flies, but you just have to drive around all the rivers and stuff. But anyways, only 1 in 3 visitors sees the actual sees Denali, either from here or from the state park. And most days it looks like this. So 2 out of 3 visitors never even see Denali. Since I couldn't see Denali from the river, I decided to fly over. And so first we got our glacier shoes, and then we went out to our plane. These planes are called Otters, and they're from the 1950s, so they've been around, but they're all upgraded. And so we flew in. It was kind of crazy. It was very foggy around Denali, but the pilot said he saw an opening, so we flew in. It seems like the wings are about 10 feet from the mountain, but I'm sure it's a little safer than that. And so we saw a hole in the weather. We flew in and landed on the glacier at the place that is the base camp, believe it or not, for the Denali expeditions. And there was already a plane down there. So we circled around and came in, and made a landing. And while we were there, the captain said basically that we probably had about 10 to 15 minutes on the glacier, and if the weather started coming in, we were going to have to jump on the plane and get out of there. And that's kind of what happened. The other plane took off and beat it, and so we followed it up pretty quick. But it was fun to be on the glacier. Still couldn't see Denali that well, but at least you're on the mountain, and you feel like you're on the mountain. And I kind of tried to go cheap and take the cheap tour, but I'll be honest, pay the extra money, go and stand on the glacier. You don't want to just fly over it. You really want to land and be there. It was definitely worth the extra money to land on the glacier. So I highly recommend this. Talkeetna Air Taxi, they're the ones. I'm not sponsored or nothing, but I paid full price, and it was worth it. So if you are in Talkeetna, it's pretty easy to just jump on the plane and then go over there. They picked me up from my hotel, and I had quite an adventure. I'm really glad I took this part of the trip, and even though I was going to Denali National Park the next day, being on the glacier was just a blast. Highly recommend it. So as I said earlier, that fog right there just started rolling in, and the pilot yelled for us all to jump on the plane, and that's what we did. We ran for the plane and took off. And so we only got about 10-15 minutes on the glacier. Still was worth it. Still was worth every dime. Okay, so here we are. We're taking off. One of the cool things is that when we're taking off, we flew over the Denali base camp that the trekkers use to summit Denali, which, from what I understand, that takes about 3 weeks, even though it's only like 15 miles. So it must be a crazy hike. I got up the next morning, drove to Denali. It's about a 3-hour drive. I went to the visitor center and watched the movie, and then I headed out on the trails. I had a hike in mind, a couple hikes actually. In the visitor center, they kind of set me up, and so this is the first hike I had. As you can see, I had 3 or 4 options, but I decided to go on the Triple Lakes Trail, and that was cool. It was a great hike. I really enjoyed it. I walked about a mile and a half down to walk over the suspension bridge, and then back up. So it was just an out and back, wasn't a loop, but it was still a lot of fun. It was beautiful. It was kind of eerie walking through the woods, with no bear spray. I flew in, so I didn't have any bear spray, but I just didn't see any bears. It was a pretty well-traveled trail, so I wasn't that worried. But I was out there in the sticks. It was fun. One thing about national parks, as soon as you get out of the visitor center, the crowds thin out pretty fast, even if you just hike a mile away. So this was a pretty hike, 2 bridges over 2 separate creeks, and it was great. It was a lot of fun. This is the first bridge. It's just a basic wood footbridge, but it really had nice views of the creek, and then also there was this really stunning railroad trestle from the Alaska Railroad, and if you stayed there a little while, you could probably see some trains go by. And then this is Hines Creek. This is just an offshoot of the Riley Creek. It was pretty, and so the view was definitely worth the hike, and it was really nice. And this is just the first bridge. About another half mile down, there was a suspension bridge that was really pretty, and that was this trail actually is like a 7 or 8 mile trail each way, but I just went down like about a mile and a half to this suspension bridge. I'm actually walking back on it right now. I tried about 8 times to walk across it, but there was always somebody on it, and they always wanted to stop in the middle of the bridge, and so I just kind of had to scooch by this family and finish up my hike. This is Riley Creek, and once again, it's really pretty. It's neat hiking through the forest, and then all of a sudden you're over a river or over a creek. And so this Triple Lakes hike with these 2 bridges, that was a good recommendation by the visitor center. I was really happy. this hike. It was a lot of fun. It wasn't that long either, and it was pretty easy, pretty accessible. So if you're not like a big hiker, this is a really pretty hike for about a mile each way, and it was relatively flat and near the visitor center. So it was definitely worth going. My second hike, I took the Horseshoe Lake Trail. This one was a little more intense. There was a little more up and down, and you know, some stairways and stuff like that. You have to kind of walk past the railroad tracks. I didn't film that, but you get out towards the Nenana River. That's really beautiful. And so the thing about the Horseshoe Lake Trail is that it's kind of an out and back, but at the end there's two loops. And you want to take the far loop. You don't want to take the close loop because you just miss a lot of the good stuff. So if you take the long loop, the far loop, you get to see the Nenana River, and then you get to hike around the backside of Horseshoe Lake. And even though it's like an extra mile, it's not that big of a deal because this is the flat part of the whole hike. You basically climb down into this area and then you climb back out of it. But once you're there, it's relatively flat. And this Horseshoe Lake was just beautiful. I couldn't, you know, it was low light conditions and I just had an iPhone and I couldn't really capture how blue it was. It really is stunning. And on the far loop where you get to walk around the lake right at the edge, man, it's beautiful. I was hoping I had a fishing pole, but I know that's not allowed in the national park. But the Horseshoe Lake Trail, man, it didn't disappoint. It was really beautiful. I would say it was about 5 miles. And, you know, besides the first part that's some up and down, it was really beautiful. Here's a little squirrel I ran into. He wasn't that scared of me. I'm sure he sees hikers come by all day. And I wasn't going to feed him, but he probably recognized also that I wasn't going to get him. So I just said hi and moved on. So this is what it looks like coming back up out of this trail. So there's some work involved. So if you take the Horseshoe Lake Trail, you'll be hiking to get back up. At the final stop was Denali Brewing. This is the real brewery. It's about 8 miles out of Talkeetna, and really enjoyed it. Got a pizza. It was great. It was a great way to finish the day. Okay, man, what a great time I had. Put in about 8 miles on 2 different hikes, and man, they were beautiful. And I'm sure you saw all the footage, so I won't go over it again. Anyways, if you've never been to Denali, man, you gotta come. It's just beautiful here. And I had a wonderful time hiking and checking it all out. Okay, so that's the end of this week. Next week, tomorrow I'm driving down to Homer. Gonna go fishing, gonna take you along. I hope you enjoy that. It's gonna be some great time. So I wish you all health, happiness, and prosperity in your lives. And I will see you next week on our next big adventure.